Good afternoon and welcome to the Rundown. I'm your host, Captivating Christian, and here are some of your top stories for today, the 26th of January. After killing a black man and destroying evidence, a Florida man claims stand your ground and gets 1 year in jail. And in some political news, Rudy Giuliani sued by Dominion Voting Systems over false election claims. The suit against Mr. Giuliani, the lawyer of former President Donald Trump, who pushed to overturn the election results, accused him of carrying out a virtual disinformation campaign. Still can't breathe how New York City Police Department officers continue to use the chokehold, which can be deadly and are explicitly prohibited by the department on civilians, while officers who substantiate claims of abuse go without meaningful punishment. And protest breaks out in Tacoma once again after police car drives through a crowd. And Sarah Huckabee Sanders, an ex-Trump press secretary, to run for Arkansas's governor. There isn't a single black woman on the House Dems leadership team, and it's not new. Kamala Harris may have made history last week, but black women in the House haven't held elected positions in leadership in more than 40 years, since Shirley Chisholm. And Kodak Black seemingly reneged on his $1 million charity offer after his pardon. And Biden's Treasury seeks to put Harriet Tubman on the $20 bill, which was an effort by the Trump administration to halt it from happening. Let's get to the news. Gardner Kent Frazier killed Dominic DJ Broadus II, but no one knows why. Frazier doesn't deny, nor does the state attorney of Florida deny it as well. After shooting Broadus in the face, investigators say that Frazier, who is white, waited 21 minutes to dial 911. Asked by emergency operators if he knew Broadus, Frazier says, yeah, I believe so. When the Baker County Sheriff's deputies arrived on the scene, they noticed that the 31-year-old DJ Broadus' body appeared to be moved or rolled over. Broadus was holding a cell phone when he was shot, but it was nowhere to be found when the authorities arrived on the scene. Although authorities never found Broadus' phone, a Florida Department law enforcement investigation would later uncover 115 phone calls and 35 text messages between the two men, including explicit and sexual images. Authorities allege that Frazier deleted some of the messages, reportedly hiding his relationship with Broadus. The state alleged that Frazier destroyed his phone because he did not want anyone to find out about the sexual relationship between the two. Meanwhile, Frazier pleaded no contest and begged the court for leniency. Standing before his parents of a dead child, the defense attorney allegedly argued that it was Frazier who had to serve a life sentence because he was traumatized. In order for the defendant to hide his feminine or bisexual nature, he executed my son, my grandson's father, Dominic Broadus Sr., DJ's father, told the court on Monday. In an effort to try to keep his secret, he fatally shot my son in the back of the head twice and tried to destroy the evidence of their relationship by deleting all the texts from his phone and destroying and hiding his son's phone. Under Florida Stand Your Ground law, not only does a person accused of killing someone has no duty to retreat, defendants are not even required to prove that they acted in self-defense. Because of a 2017 ruling, Florida prosecutors must now prove that the defendant was not acting in fear of his or her life and that the accused killer doesn't have to convince a jury. The law allows a single judge to grant the defendant unilateral immunity, thus preventing a jury from ever hearing the case or assessing the evidence. When Frazier claimed he shot Broaddus in the face multiple times during a fight, he didn't have to prove Broaddus attacked him. In fact, the burden of proof fell on the state to prove that an attack didn't occur. The Florida state attorney could only charge Frazier with tampering with the evidence, a third-degree felony with a maximum possible sentence of 1 year. And lucky for Frazier, in Florida, sentences less than 1 year are served in a county facility, still not a jail. And not only that, in 2009, Ryan Frazier was fired from a nearby Jacksonville Sheriff's Department back in 2009 for shooting Jarek Hall, an unarmed black man. Dominion Voting Systems filed a defamation lawsuit on Monday against Rudolph W. Giuliani, the lawyer for former President Donald J. Trump. The former mayor of New York City, who played a key role in the former president's month-long efforts to subvert the 2020 election. The 107-page lawsuit filed by the Federal District Court in Washington accused Mr. Giuliani of carrying out a virtual defamation campaign of disinformation about Dominion, made up of false allegations, in part to enrich himself and those legal fees and his podcast. The suit seeks damages for more than $1.3 billion, and it is based upon more than 50 statements Giuliani made at legislative hearing on Twitter, on his podcast, and in conservative news media, where he spun a fictitious narrative of a plot by one of the biggest voting machine manufacturers in the country to flip votes to President Biden. Giuliani, who is one of Trump's closest advisors and confidants, has faced continuing fallout for his high visible efforts to reverse the election outcome. This month, the chairman of the New York City State Senate Judiciary Committee formally requested that the state court system strip Mr. Giuliani of his law license. Dominion's defamation lawsuit for $1.3 billion will allow me to investigate their history, finances, and practices fully and completely, Mr. Giuliani said. The amount is being asked for is quite obviously intended to frighten people of faint heart. It is another act of intimidation by the hate-filled left wing to wipe out and censor the exercise of free speech. The New York City Department Patrol Guide is clear about chokeholds. They are prohibited and have been since 1993 because they can kill. And as of the 2014 death of Eric Gardner iconically illustrated, yet 6 years later, after that now infamous video captured him pleading, "I cannot breathe," the NYPD cops are still being caught on camera performing the dangerous moves with acceptance and appliance and sometimes explicit approval of department leaders. The patrol guide proves no allowance for using a maneuver defined as any pressure to the throat or windpipe which may prevent or hinder breathing or reduce intake of air. But other department guidelines note that chokeholds can be reviewed on a case-to-case basis to determine whether under the circumstances the action was reasonable and justified. The prohibition on chokeholds is firm. It shall not be used, said the online city council hearing. Civilian Complaint Review Board, which investigates police misconduct, has substantiated 40 incidences since Eric Gardner's death of officers using the prohibited chokehold. The board can recommend discipline, and its lawyers serve as prosecutors in officers' administrative trials. But the final say on punishment is up to the NYPD. And not a single cop since the Eric Gardner case has been fired for the chokehold. Most have lost vacation days or not even punished at all. Protesters in Tacoma in Washington state set large fires, damaged buildings, and marched with signs late Sunday in response to a police car driving through a crowd the day before, leaving at least 2 people injured. The demonstrators gathered near an intersection in Tacoma where the police car plowed through a crowd of pedestrians while responding to a reported street race Saturday evening. The video of the incident was widely shared online and appears to show at least one person being run over. Both injured people went to the hospital with injuries not considered life-threatening. One person has since been released. Sunday evening, demonstrators gathered at the park when marched through downtown where the windows were shattered and spray paint was tagged on multiple buildings. Several items were set up to create a barricade in the street where large trash was then set ablaze. The demonstrators also passed by the Pierce jailhouse. The officer involved in the incident on Saturday is a 58-year-old man who had been with the department for 29 and a half years, Tacoma police say. He had been surrounded by a crowd after arriving at the reported street race. People began hitting the body of the cruiser, and the officer feared for his safety. The officer drove forward through the crowd, and when he stopped to call for medical aid, police said. The officer has been placed on paid administrative leave. Hey, this is Captivating Christian here to remind you to tune in to Politics and Wellness every Tuesday night at 8 p.m. Politics and Wellness every Tuesday night at 8 p.m. Former White House Press Secretary Sarah Sanders announced a run for governor of Arkansas on Monday, calling the position the last line of defense against the radical left in Washington. As governor, I will defend your right to be free of socialism and tyranny, your Second Amendment to keep your family safe, and your freedom of speech and religious liberty, Sanders said in a video announcing her candidacy. Sanders has toyed with launching a campaign since leaving the White House post in 2019 and has been quietly planning for a bid over the last year. Arkansas's current governor cannot seek re-election in 2022 because of the term limits. Sanders, whose father is Mike Huckabee, was governor from 1996 to 2007. Sarah Sanders took over as press secretary from Sean Spicer, who resigned in 2017. A loyal ally of former President Donald Trump, she had a contentious relationship with the White House press corps. And in the same year, the U.S. elected their first black woman to serve as vice president. The House Democratic Caucus once again elected a leadership team that did not include a single black woman. In a caucus that frequently touts diversity as one of its core strengths, black women have been repeatedly excluded from elected senior positions. And despite the country as a whole undergoing a reckoning over race in recent months, the current leadership team will remain in place for the next 2 years. It's an issue that several Democrats told Politico must be eradicated and rectified, although no one has a clear idea how to do that. The leadership of the Democratic caucus has never been more diverse. A white woman, Nancy Pelosi, as Speaker, the Assistant Speaker, Catherine Clark, holds 2 of the top 4 positions in the House, while the House Majority Whip, James Clyburn, is the highest ranking African American in Congress and has been atop the caucus for years. Another high-ranking black Democrat is Representative Hakeem Jeffries out of New York in his second term as caucus chair and is frequently discussed as to be the next Speaker of the House. Several black women lawmakers have said that they face tough scrutiny of their leadership capabilities, even compared to black men, regardless of their seniority. After Vice President Kamala Harris took the oath of office last week, there are now 27 black women serving in Congress, all House Democrats. A pair of black women now lead 2 of the 21 House committees. Representative Maxine Waters is atop the House Financial Services Committee, and Representative Eddie Bernard Johnson of Texas leads the House Science Committee. While pleading for a presidential pardon during Donald Trump's final months in the Oval Office, Kodak Black made a bit of a quid pro quo. The rapper promised to give $1 million to charity if he was pardoned. If the president them free me, he said, I'm gonna spend $1 million on charity. Within the first year, I'm out. That's on everything. He tweeted that on November 27th. On Trump's last day in office, that happened. No longer after that, several bloggers noticed that Black's promissory tweet had suddenly disappeared. Black had served nearly a half of his 48 months in prison. After being pardoned, the rapper had pleaded guilty to a federal firearm charge following an incident back in May of 2019. He also admitted to lying about his criminal history while acquiring a firearm. Since the pardon, social media has been reminding Black of his promise. His attorney, though, told TMZ that Black constantly donates to various charities and does not need to prove himself. He also questioned the charitableness of those questioning Black's intent. And be sure to join Jay Wilson, Rebel Sun, The Official Kingpin, Conscious TV, and Captivating Christian this and every Thursday at 6:45 Central Standard Time, 7:45 Eastern Standard Time for the Gentleman's Panel. President Biden's Treasury Department is studying ways to speed up the process of adding Harriet Tubman's portrait to the front of the $20 bill after the Trump administration allowed the Obama-era initiative to lapse, the White House press secretary said on Monday. The decision to have Ms. Tubman replace Andrew Jackson as the face of the $20 note was set in motion back in 2016 by the Treasury Secretary at the time. However, former President Donald J. Trump opposed the idea, and his Treasury Secretary, Steve Mnuchin, stopped work on that part of the currency design, urging and arguing that adding new security features to the money was more urgent of a priority. Once again, thank you for watching CCN Midday News. Hope you enjoyed. Please like, share, and subscribe. Also hit that notification button so you will never miss another news update. Have a great day. Peace.